Hey, hey, hey. Thanks for joining. The season of mirror work begins. Conversations with Lady O. This is my part 2 of my MarkCarney series. If you caught the part 1, you'll know why I had to be intentional of thinking about saying his last name because I messed up the last time. But someone made a comment in the video that it wasn't a mess up. That's the feeling. So that's why that name came out. But so this is part 2 for the MarkCarney series. So I'm just gonna jump right in. You can get caught up with part 1. So let's just get going here with Mr. Carney. In regards to talking about how he speaks to people, he speaks to reporters. He's very used to his private demeanor. This tells you the type of leader he is in the boardroom, the type of CEO. He's condescending. He puts on a nice smile. You know who he reminds me of? And I'm gonna make a thumbnail. Usually, I do my recordings first because it's just organic, just straight from the heart, straight from passion, and then I do the description of what I just said, and then I do the thumbnail. I don't know how other content creators do. If they do the thumbnail first with the idea, then do the description of what they're going to say, and then record. I don't know, but this is how I flow. But I'm gonna search out for a picture. You know who he reminds me of? And I know a lot of people talk about the Simpsons, predicting the future and all of that stuff, and different characters come out to be different, exactly what's happening in the world presently, and these episodes happen back in the day. So they talk about Simpson predicting the future. But you know who he reminds me of? The first day I saw this guy, because I don't know MarkCarney from Timbuktu. I don't know him. But the first day I saw him in the public sphere as, the politician running for leadership and all of that stuff, right? He reminds me of that wealthy guy from The Simpsons. The way he hunches over, his nose, his forehead. Mr. Burns. Mr. Burns. He reminds me of Mr. Burns. Oh my gosh. But he reminds me of him very, very much. So if anybody knows of an episode that's predicting what's happening right now in Canada with this wealthy character that's just come out from nowhere. Well, I won't say nowhere. He was always behind the scenes, right? He was always the hidden hand behind the scenes, right? Please let me know. Please let me know if there is such a scene, because he reminds me of Mr. Burns. His demeanor, his face, the smile, his body language, how he walks with a hump. But I remembered the talk about him leaving his family with a twisted and being a heartless billionaire, right? And he owned the autumn mill, right? And he lived a very privileged life and would amuse himself by injuring workers. Because Burns, I remember, and he studied science and business. Listen, I'm just saying. If someone knows of a Simpsons episode that sheds light as to what may or may not be happening in Canada, please speak up. Please let me know. Put it in the comments. And, I'm just saying, while I'm talking about that, please like and share this video. Please subscribe. I'm building my channel. It's in a baby stage. We're right now just creeping, right? Before we can stand up and before we can take our first walk, and before we start, walking further, then, running, and then, doing all that stuff, right? So please subscribe, please like, please share, please comment, engage. I think right now, I have 30 subscribers or 32 subscribers the last check. So you know what? they say put a number, put a date. I'm looking for 50 subscribers by what? June? We're in March 20th, 2025 is right now the date that I'm recording this. Parliament is prorogue, but every time I say that word prorogation, it's so close to propaganda. I don't know, but it's just too close to comfort. So I'm hoping anytime now we'll be hearing something in regards to when election would be. So June 30th. If we can get 50 subscribers by June 30th, 2025, and then we set a new target. All right. So without further ado, let us jump right into MarkCarney. So yes, his demeanor with the journalists, very, as I said in my part one, his conduct, very condescending, very snappy. The way in which he answers questions, the Liberal Party is upset that a CBC reporter dared to ask him a question that was, I would say, called for, even if no matter how we want to, have this semantics. Well, technically he did this and technically he's doing. No, it's a question that politicians face. But the way in which he threw it back to her, I tell you, he's a good gaslighter. Because he made her feel or think that, oh, the reason why she did this is because of that. It's like, no. Like, it just tells me how he runs his company. It tells me in the private sector the kind of CEO or leader he is, how he is in the boardroom. If he comes up with an idea and people don't support it or they ask him, how he makes that person feels. So people are afraid to actually speak up or speak their mind because they're afraid of being embarrassed and humiliated, spoken down to, but in a very sophisticated smile way. I don't like that. I've been around it enough. And I don't like that. I don't like it. In corporate, private, academic, I don't like people who are in leadership who think they're slick in the way they speak down to you and then try to rephrase what you are saying and make you look like there's something wrong with you or there's some character deficiency in you by asking the question because they refuse to want to answer it or they know that the answer that they're given is transparent on another level about them and their character. So they try to volley it back to you and make you look like the bag. I don't like that. I don't like it.
Point of referring to our sovereignty, made a point of referring to our shared sovereign in King Charles III. So if you're looking for some evidence to your question, you have both my statement of Friday and you have that of the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Look.
So going back to this comment of sovereign, I mentioned this in part one about the shared sovereign, which is King Charles III. And they have tried to make us think that this is just pageantry and just symbolism and it's just something we do, but it really doesn't have value. No. The past 5 years since COVID-19, more and more, I am being more aware that this sovereign is not just pageantry. It's not just, just for show. There is legitimate power that still reside in the sovereign of the monarchy over Canada. So we are not truly sovereign because we have a sovereign already over us that covers us. So just by just by osmosis and just by the mere fact of being under the sovereign, we have now ascribed to that sovereignty under the sovereign. But we in of ourselves, standing on our own, we are not sovereign. We are only sovereign by the mere nature of having the sovereign over us. Their sovereignty covers us and makes us sovereign, but we're not sovereign. The more and more I see the antics of what's been happening since 2020, the more I understand why there's some Canadians who've been catching heck when they say this, that we need to step away from the monarchy. If the monarchy is just symbolism, we need to remove the monarchy from being our head of state, head, governor general, and just have you come in as a guest, have you come in. That also would help our finances, because from what I understand, all of these monarchies, they are funded still by our tax dollars. Monies from our reserve, money from our tax is going to these sovereigns. And this came on surface when the whole Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, like they've now taken away the titles and all that, but when he walked away and then wanting to still have security clearance, and they're like, well, he's not going to get security from them, so now he's looking to Canada to cover his security detail. And we're like, what do you mean? And more it started to expose that we pay for their lifestyle. This is why I will always have immense respect for Princess Diana. She is always going to be the Princess Diana. We are still paying for the lifestyle of Mistress Kamala, who's now named Queen, although we were told that Queen Elizabeth, in her last words or writing, did not want her to carry that title. They agreed, but as soon as the body was laid to rest, and then they changed it against the wish. I'm telling you, the words that are coming off my tongue, the wishes of the Queen. She now assumed the title that when she was alive, when Queen Elizabeth was alive, said, no, you're not having. This is what you will have instead. So there's much about her that she's always wanted that title, and she needed to get Diana out of the way and made Diana always feel like a third wheel. And Diana even said that, there's 3 people in this marriage. It's just rest in peace forever in our hearts, Princess Diana. The people's princess forever and ever and ever and ever. So I don't want my money going towards that type of relationship or that. And I agree with many Canadians that said it's time that we need to really be sovereign and have the UK people support that type of hierarchy. Let their tax money go into that. All these commonwealths have stepped away from that. Barbados stepped away from that. Some African countries who was part of the Commonwealth has stepped away from that. I heard Jamaica was also thinking about that. Some other Caribbean countries who are part of this Commonwealth have stepped away from that, because it's like, no, enough. We're in 2025 now. It's there as a great symbolism. There's history behind it, and the history has to end, because now we all need to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps, go get a job, go do something, or live off of the other taxpayers' money. But we need our taxpayers' dollars. We need to live off of our money. Our children's children need to have our heritage. We need to leave a legacy. Your Catherine, and all of them. They're living off of us. No, let them live off of what you invest. Aren't you the one that like to tell, the working class to invest, and we got to pay capital gains for this, when, oh my God, if we have a TFSA account, we can't overspend. We can't over contribute. If we have an RRSP, we can only do this much. If we take it out, we have to pay penalty. All of this stuff for us to be able to grow our own wealth. But you don't need to be responsible for what you're getting. Make your own living. By the sweat of your brow you shall eat. No. You believe by the sweat of our brow you shall eat. That has to end. So you want to come at me? You can come at me for that in the comments and whatever. But this has to end. It has to end. And this sovereign that he talks about, I mentioned in part 1, he talked a lot about it when they swore each one of them in. It ran over all y'all heads. I spoke about it briefly in part 1. They talked about being loyal to the king. I looked at the wording for their oath in English and in French. And they're not loyal to the people. They're not loyal to our constitution because technically we have a charter, which we saw is just symbolic. Like, that is symbolic because Justin Trudeau just threw that at the side during the lockdown. Oh boy, and they found ways of interpreting it the way they want to go towards the purpose they're wanting to. And oh boy, we realize we don't got nothing to stand on because why? We're standing under a sovereign. So we don't have a constitution technically. We have a charter that just came out in the 80s, which is like, so what did we have before? So a little birdie told me the reason why Trump is saying the things that Trump is saying, because Trump knows more about Canadian history than Canadians. Apparently, when the Americans did the Constitution, hence when we all meet, they were called the Americas. Newsflash, we are all one. The imagery that they keep putting on this for make you think that you're sovereign or you're something else that you're not. Some of you should really take some time to really dig deep into the history of Canada and the things that were written and where Canada has attached itself to. And then you just go deeper and deeper into this. And you're like, what? And then you get exposure to some books that shed light. One of them is The Blowback. Woo. Just saying. Another book was about strawman. Another book was on common law. Let me tell the things that we don't know, that they're happy that we don't know, get to know. So I say all that to say the Americas, and they meet every year. And I did a video when Chrystia Freeland did an openly statement about the hollowing out of the American middle class. And she actually laid it out how she's doing it. This is why for us, us Canadians, my type of Canadians, the Canadians like me, what's happening has not, we're fully aware what they're doing. They told you what they were doing, but they told you that these are called conspiracy theories and we are tinfoil hat wearing people. And then you're living out what many of us are telling you is happening. And it's like now Pierre Poilievre comes to the rescue and do this. And it's just like, Chrystia Freeland was made a very bold statement when she did a presentation about the hollowing out of the American middle class. And you think she's just talking about America, United States of America. No, they're talking about the Americas. Because that's what we are called. And when they have the meeting of the Americas, it's the North, the South, the Central America, hello, North America, South America, hello. We are the Americas. And we are binded and connected more than they want you to know. And the Caribbean, the Atlantic, are part of the Americas as well. It says you can't serve two masters. You're going to love one and hate the next. That is why some of the Americas have gotten away and removed the monarchy. You can't serve two masters. You can't serve the monarchy and still be part of the Americas saying you're sovereign. And serve the binding constitutions and contracts and agreements and treaties that you signed, but you still have a master. You can't serve two. Canadians, many are not aware of the history of the Americas. You only know what they tell you and when they teach you and indoctrinate in the classroom. And I was one of them as well. Because your parents, your mother, your father, whichever one, if you have a parent or you have a mother, a father, a guardian, and they're different. They send you to these places and spaces, which were institutions that have a curriculum that was set up by those who want these people to learn a certain thing. And your teachers were also indoctrinated to teach it like this. So they themselves were the rinse and repeat trainers on the conveyor belt in what to do, how to think, what to know, information to present, and how to present it, and the bias in the way they presented it. Listen, it was all to condition the human race to think, act, and behave a certain way and embrace a reality that they want you to. But they cannot be found totally guilty because the information is still out there. It's for the few to break loose and find it. But they're not making it impossible to find because they'll be guilty. They're just making it challenging to find. Because the first challenge for you to even find it is for you to go look for it. For you to look for it, the other challenge is for you to believe there's something out there to look for. So the mind was what they worked on to put up the barrier of you even thinking that there's something else, much less to go search to find it. So that was the beginning of his statement of monarchy. So let's continue.
36 hours, and that is what it is, effectively, away from Canada. The focus is on security, deepening security partnerships with France, with the United Kingdom. Those discussions are necessarily sensitive. They're revealed in the full course of time. I'm encouraged by the progress that's been made. Secondly, advancing the support for Ukraine is very necessary. You may have seen that I have invited President Zelensky to the G7. I look forward to hosting him in Canada in June. There are a host of other measures that we are taking as part of the coalition willing to support that. And it also includes economic opportunities.
Hold your bridges there, buddy. Hold your bridges. You look forward to seeing him in June. Dude, again, these people are good at presenting and forecasting what they want you to accept. And if you accept it, then you don't do anything to change it because you believe it's a done deal. Why bother? They have been successful in that type of brain washing, of washing your brain the way they want your brain to be washed. They bring in the water, they bring in the soap, the detergent, they rub it a certain way, they wash your brain a certain way. So the outcome of when it dries is what they desire. I extend my invitation to Zelensky and look forward to meeting him. And dude, you're not going to be here. You're not going to be the prime minister because we're going to make sure of it. Don't try to wash and present a certain image that it's a done deal. No, it's not, MarkCarney. No different than our family south of the border, where you try to cast an image and a spell over their belief system that Kamala all of a sudden was able to successfully bring Biden's approval ratings of the Democrats all the way up to meet Trump. And in some states, she's neck and neck and she's nonsensical. No. Nice try, French fry. No. So this is why, as much as they want us to hate Trump and want to disassociate ourselves from our cousins south of the border, don't allow them to. Our cousins made it too big to rig. Remember that hashtag? Too big to rig? And they're like, oh, you want it? Yeah. They couldn't rig that. No matter how much people up here now, you have your control opposition in all these freedom movements who have been intentionally making the people allow this to happen, because a lot of this could have already been done a long time ago. But you have a lot of sellouts within your freedom movements and all these freedom platforms that has allowed Justin Trudeau and Jagmeet Singh to have been successful, because many of them are undercover retired NDP operatives. They were the old school NDP operatives. They're now grandmother ages, but they still are being used to control the opposition by directing your attention, your resources in another way that's not going to be effective. And when a strategy comes to be effective, they divert it, they attack it, or they even attack the person and make you think that the person is counterproductive. Then they start a character assassination, projecting their controlism onto the person who is pure-hearted, have a great idea, but they know that the idea, if it gets traction, would defeat this nonsense, and they don't want it to be defeated. They want anarchy. And you have a lot of anarchists in your freedom movements, Canadian platforms. Anarchists. Undercover as freedom fighters. So they try this nonsense south of the border, telling you, look how Kamala comes in and look how she's not bring the numbers up, and made people just stay home, made people back down, made people said, okay, no. But the Republicans said, no, nice try, no. And they made sure that they put into the atmosphere a huge energy to say, no, Trump is who we are. They had all their social media warriors, all of the alternative platforms out in the street, interviewing people, they saturated the energy that is like, what polls are you talking about? To the point that people are like, I don't know what these polls are, but have you met anybody who was not voting liberal, who's now voting liberal? Have you met anybody who was voting Polivier, who's now gonna go behind MarkCarney, the advisor to Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland? He is the face of why Canada it is. They had Justin Trudeau there as the face, but there was always somebody behind pulling the strings. He was the advisor to Europe, UK, and Canada. Look at their economy. Look what they said, what he did. Look what he did to us. He's Chrystia Freeland's son's godfather. He's the mastermind behind this destruction. And now you're gonna put him in charge in public view. He was already in charge behind the scenes, but he didn't want to have his face there to be the one to be responsible for it. And now he's like, okay, you know what? Let me just step up and let me just, rinse and repeat the nonsense that, my counterparts south of the border try to do with those people. And let's see if it's successful with these ones up here. Because Canadians have been successfully seen as compliant to their own demise. They saw how you allowed the government to tell you that the truckers, Canadian workers, were insurrectionists. They saw how you allowed Justin Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland to attack your own. And you're there hand clapping and celebrating them. When all those people were trying to do is sound the alarm. They were honking the horns to sound the alarm. And you're inconvenienced and want to have a class action suit and talk about businesses lose income. Lie. I intentionally went out to Ottawa 3 different times, 3 different occasions to get a sense of maybe it's nighttime, maybe it's daytime, maybe it's midweek, maybe it's weekend. And every time I went, I saw businesses who didn't listen to the media. They were open and they were packed. And it was safe. We walked up and down. We stayed there from the sun till nighttime, safe as heck. Homeless people were saying they didn't want the Freedom Convoy to go because they were fed beyond measure. Food was in abundance. The streets were clean. We saw people rotating and clearing the snow. The festivals that were happening. No, you're inconvenienced with a peaceful, joyous protest of Canadians coming together against dictatorship. You're inconvenienced. I met many people who were living right there who were coming out of their apartments, high-fiving, celebrating. And they're like, the noise is there and it's for a good cause. And it's for a good cause. Because we saw something bigger happening to our country. See, you guys like bloodshed. And that's why Justin Trudeau went and brought these military people landing secret planes, bringing them into Ottawa to trample your citizens, beat them, bust them up the head, bloodshed. That's what you love to see. It was disgusting that you allowed violence in your city when there was no violence. South of the border showed us how to get rid of this virus. We ought to take lessons from what is successful and stop rinsing and repeating failed actions. This man moved his business to the United States, and of all places, Trump residents, and have the audacity to tell you he don't like Trump. Dude, this man, Polivier, has uploaded a video where Polivier showed you when he was cross-examining or interviewing this man, MarkCarney, supported the pipelines not being extended across Canada. He thought it was a great idea. Mind you, he's invested in pipelines outside of our country, benefiting them and their economy. This man is a walking hypocrite. Maybe that's why he reminds me of Burns from Simpsons. He exploits other people because it's cheap labor. There's no standards there. But don't want to give the labor here to Canadians, where you have to give people value for their time, and there's a standard of workplace environment. They don't want to do that. Listen. We have to have the Canadian blue wave too big to rig here. Too big to rig here. It's imperative that we cover from coast to coast, from sea to shining sea. Just like the South, so be it in the North. From coast to coast, just like the South, from sea to shining sea. Cover it. Get these people out of here. Do not even make them opposition. I would be happy where they have no seats to even be classified as an opposition party. Put them back. Among the years they've put back small businesses and our economy and the young people's, the next generation, how far back they've put them for them to get out of this death. How far back they've put senior citizens. We need to put the Liberal Party and the NDP so far back, they have to take a long time to get caught up. Just like they have prescribed to our generation and our next generation and generation to come. Give them a dose of their medicine. Put them so far back for them to see how hard it's going to take to get back to any position where they have any voice. Teach them a lesson, because his daughter and Justin Trudeau's daughter already went up on stage and forecasted that they want to be politicians. Oh, it's there. We saw it. No more than that freedom convoy person that want to cry and do a heartfelt, she has love for Justin Trudeau's children and they're beautiful. And I looked at her hypocrisy and I'm thinking, what happened to the Canadians' children that were decimated? They're not special too? What about the children who had a high rate fentanyl, depression, child abuse, unaliving themselves, anxiety, loss of academic, loss of scholarship? What about those children? You're telling me about Justin Trudeau's children, and please pray for his children and his children. And I'm just watching her putting on a damn show. As I tell you, be aware of people saying they're here to fight for Canada's freedom. Just be aware. Even good intention have people somehow along the way that gets themselves compromised. All we got to do is go to the polls and vote. All we got to do is put up a mental resistance to not get indoctrinated by the lies that is fully in front of your face to paint a different picture than your lived reality. Telling you to cancel your Disney Plus and Netflix and all that, as if that is going to help the issue of what Chrystia Freeland and MarkCarney did. And they're still tag teaming together up until this day. The least you can do now is go to the polls and put an X next to a conservative's name. Now, on that, before I wrap up, there are some progressive conservatives who are coming into the party very progressively, being supported by Doug Ford, Progressive Party. And Doug Ford is a sellout. I've done enough videos. Go check him out. Even came on television saying, sorry, folks, we got it wrong, yada, yada, yada. And convinced me to give the man a second chance. Convinced me to, become a member, help him and all of that. I'm like, okay, sure. Encouraged me to put in my CV to run. And then I got an interview. And then hours before my interview, the PC party sent my writing a communication telling them not to interview me. No explanation, nothing. Sent emails to find out why. Nobody's responded. And then someone told me the reason why Doug Ford and the PC party doesn't want you to come in. And I said, thanks, bet, say less. I'm good now. He showed me exactly he is not. This is why he's endorsing Carney. This is why he publicly talked about being best friends with Justin Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland, being, his therapist, and she has a fond love for him. Like, they were out there. Look at all my videos. They're there. Look at them. The thumbnails has his faces on them. You have those people who are tied to Doug Ford, who's being positioning to come federally, to come into the party. My writing is Scarborough Guildwood, so you put two and two together. That's all I got to say. And then there is the person who is the head of the Scarborough Progressive Conservative Party, and she was Scarborough Guildwood in one of the last elections provincially, and now she is elsewhere, and she has a candidacy to become part of Polivier's party. You can do your homework, and you can figure that one out too. So all I'm saying to the conservative federally, you are getting some Trojan horses coming in. Be aware of them. Now, they will come in now because Doug has told them it's the best way to position, because anybody conservative is going to get a vote. So it's the easiest way to get in. They're guaranteed to get voted in because they're riding on the coattail. See, Doug has that beautiful strategy, riding on the coattail of others. So they're going to come in riding on the coattail of the Canadian blue wave, but be aware that they are Trojan horses. I would strongly suggest, let me tell you what I am not doing in my own writing. I am not voting for that conservative member because I know too much. I looked at the resume, I see exactly what's happening, and I got little birdies that's telling me exactly what's going on. So I am not voting for the conservative candidate in my writing for Scarborough-Guildwood. It's out there. He sent me an email as well, and I responded back, and I told him straight up, and he goes, thank you for your honesty. Because that's just me. I'm a straight shooter. Ain't nothing I'm saying in public that I haven't already told you. And that's the kind of person that Doug Ford he's uneasy with. Yeah, I am a woman of my word. I say what I mean, and I mean what I say. It's not just a nice mantra. It is for real who my life has been. That's why many people are very uneasy when I step into a room because, yes, I am that person. The one that you think doesn't exist, yes, I am that person. Rest in peace, Angie Stone. Many people, when you have that type of level of integrity, people don't like you and you haven't done nothing but just step in a room just because of who you are and what you represent. It's like an antagonist to their energy. They just don't like being around you because you are moving in a realm and in a bar that convicts them. And it's like, who do you think you are? And all of a sudden they're saying that you're this and you're this and it's them. You're not stush. You're not arrogant. You're not thinking you're better than people. You just move in a sense and an integrity way that it just makes them uncomfortable. So they need to get rid of you anyhow possible. They don't want you to be around. They throw shade, they sabotage, they spite, they stab you behind the back. They're trying everything because you are the mirror that they don't want to look into. So, on a federal level, please know that you have some Trojan horses coming in from the progressive, conservative, liberal party of Doug Ford, who has been the arms, legs, and the helpmate for the Liberal Party for the past 5 years. And even before that, as I said, catch my videos. They're coming in to lay low, but trust me, they're feeding information to Doug, and Doug is going to feed it to the liberals. Listen, don't want to listen to me? That's your problem. That's your prerogative. But the same thing I told Anthony Fury, and he didn't want to listen. And people think I don't know what I'm talking about. Like, you guys don't even know who your enemies are and who your allies are because you still go based on appearances. You don't even know who your allies are and who your enemies are. And your enemy loves the fact that you cannot pick them out of a crowd or a lineup. They love it. And even within my own community, they don't know who their enemies are and who their allies are because they also go based on appearances. And their enemy loves it. This is Lady O. Stay in action with faith and possibility. Walk in and protect your light. Your purpose will find you. Say what you mean and live like you mean what you say. I am going to do my part 3 on my MarkCarney series.